Settle down. Okay, let me first admit I am probably the least qualified person to make this introduction. What I know about fashion, including the industry, the culture, even the art form itself, is kind of pitifully embarrassing. Worse still, I have, as my wife points out, the fashion instinct of a 6-year-old. I have yet to meet a color or pattern clash that did not make me bubbly with joy. Which seems to beg for a why the heck would I be here introducing backstory. Mark knows that I love a backstory, especially a backstory in a backstory. Stay tuned. So one of the most important nights of my life was the premiere of Cloud Atlas. Thank you. I usually shy away from those sorts of events, but for a variety of reasons. But the making of that film was a profound experience, and I was madly, insanely proud of it. And I wanted to honor all of that, and I knew I was going to do that by doing something that I had been preparing for many years, a decade, roughly. But I was still terrified of doing, and that was to come out publicly as a transgendered person. I did it already. Parenthetically, I don't know why I have to keep saying this, but yes, we do exist. Yes, we need to use bathrooms like everyone else. So I decide, with the support of my friends and family, to do it. Enter the mother of all fashion crises. So it started innocently enough, as all disaster films do. My wife and I, casually crisscrossing Chicago, search of the right puzzle pieces to assemble this idealized version of myself. Despite my neophyte's knowledge of the industry, I really love the word fashion, this idea of a noun that is something in the moment or temporary, and a verb which seems to suggest something permanent that we make or create, and the way that both of these apply to our identity. So this search slowly becomes one of those afternoons you wish you'd be chopped up into a very short, painful 15-second montage, but instead it drags on for hours and horrendous hours. Nothing fits. I stare into a mirror. Boy, mirrors can be tough for all of us, but trans people, that can be brutal. This casual shopping trip devolves into something resembling the Donner Party on the deck of the Titanic. I'm eating myself, I'm sobbing, I'm blubbering, I can't do it, I can't. My wife can be a saint in these moments. She sits, we talk, we eat chocolate. I agree, like the 10-year-old I know I'm being, that I'll try on a few more things and then we'll go home. And as if in a really, really bad, obvious fairy tale movie, almost the very last thing I try on, I don't want to tear off my body. I look at it. There is something playful about it. There is something beautiful about it. And for the first time, I smile. My wife smiles. I feel lighter. It is my belief that the enduring power of the Cinderella myth is this catharsis, this fitting of a slipper representing this intersection of who we see in the looking glass with who we want to be. I have to know who's cast this spell on me, so I look at the label, and it is, as you might guess, Mr. Jacobs. I try to conjure what I know about him. I remember some grunge controversy. I knew he was out in a way that felt honest and unperformed. I knew he hung out with cool kids, and he had a tattoo of Mr. Squarepants, which is, in my opinion, as badass as tattoos come. I also recognized something in his work, an energy that I found both comforting and at this point inexplicably familiar. Which brings us to the backstory in the backstory, which I told you was coming. I entered the second grade in a public school, and I am beginning to suspect that I am different from other kids, and yet, due entirely to the awesomeness of my second grade teacher, Miss Colery, I never felt that there was something wrong with being different. I remember one particular afternoon in this utopia that was Miss Colery's class. It was lunchtime, and she was tying girls' hair into pigtails. She noticed me staring, probably as mournfully as our dog stares at us eating buttered toast. To my surprise, she asked me if I wanted pigtails too. For this very small kindness, for an afternoon with pigtails, I will forever be grateful to Miss Colery. And it was one of the last afternoons that I truly felt like I was myself in school. The next year we moved, and I entered a Catholic school where identity is first and foremost a matter of conformity. It was during these 2 years that I began to understand the building blocks of the complex language that is fashion. It is through fashion, which includes all notions of non or anti-fashion, that we communicate our interior ideas of self, negotiating who we are, who we think we are, with who we want to be, and who we think we should be, and who others expect us to be. Those ideas of self and their desire for status, acceptance, and belonging collide with structures and hierarchies of power to which we submit. We collude, by which we judge and are judged, bully and are bullied, police, control, and conform, ultimately to the detriment, or in my case, the abnegation and near destruction of our interiorities. All of this in the service of fitting in. Consider fitting in, and you consider the pervasive power of the language of fashion. Consider the intersection of the personal and the political in symbols like the high heel and the hijab. Consider the nullifying concept of a size 0 and double 0. I mean, guys, come on. You can't double nothing. Which is, of course, to consider the ubiquity of misogyny, which can be as obvious as an assault or as subtle as the othering distinction of a suit and a pantsuit. Hashtag should be president. All of which, for me, only begins to suggest the possibilities of a language that can make us feel free and authentic, and at the same time despise difference, especially when we confront it in our own mirrors. So, flash forward several years, my wife reads an interview in which Mark talks about my HRC speech. I decide to write him a letter expressing my gratitude for his fairy godmothering of my coming out at the Cloud Atlas premiere, which ends up becoming one of the most cherished memories of my life. He's moved by the letter. He invites me to this fabulous city to see his latest show. I've never been to a fashion show. I told you I was unqualified for this. But I am gobsmacked by the experience, dazzled by the density of ideas, the extraordinary energy he generates with a filmmaker's love of juxtaposition. After it's over, we meet for the first time, and he immediately leaps into my arms. And even though there are cameras everywhere, and even though there are a million reasons I would normally feel completely awkward and completely uncomfortable, I feel like I am hugging someone I have known all of my life. And in a way, I am. Because for me, Marc Jacobs is the Miss Colery of fashion. In his art, I see the magic of a manic magpie gathering shiny, fun, weird, beautiful, sparkly bits from everywhere and anywhere. His capacity to see what we cannot see, delimiting a language that is often all about limits. Marc uses his art to invite us to play, to take what we want, to be whoever we want, to spend an afternoon in pigtails. Marc sees the world as Miss Colery did, through eyes that are kind, that are generous, permissive, inclusive, and utopian. So it is my very great honor to call him my friend, my sweet sissy, and my great privilege to present him with the 2018 Visionary Award. Marc Jacobs.